the nation after how much Moderna and this mob have taken out of it. Do you see how they patronisingly enjoy the idea that JVT apparently used sports metaphors in his communicating of pandemic policy, which I actually regard in retrospect as somewhat patronising. Perhaps if it had been shown that the pandemic had been expertly handled, that the medicines had been highly effective, that the strategies had taken into place the likely economic impact and the impact on other diseases like cancer and heart disease and mental health conditions, maybe I'd look back on JVT's sports metaphors as an indication that he's one of the lads, that he's one of us, that the people are being governed fairly by people who speak their language and understand their rules. In retrospect, what it looks like is manipulative, propagandist corruption from someone who went on to work for the companies that benefited financially from the pandemic. Van Tam became known for giving COVID updates in a light-hearted way, often using football or other analogies. Okay, it's nearly kick-off, so sit down on your seats and get ready for game time. After this, I'm going to get a nice little massage from the guys at Moderna because we're all one big team together, yeah? In late 2020, he told the BBC that in the early stages of the pandemic, the away team gave us an absolute battering. And presumably he meant the away team was the coronavirus itself. But now it looks like the away team was the pharmaceutical industry and their relationship with your government and your taxpayer dollars. And indeed, they did give us an absolute battering. Adding, in the 70th minute, we've now got an equaliser. Oh, he's using 70th minute. He's just like us. Okay, we've got to hold our nerve now and see if we can get another goal and nick it. Oh, he got another goal and nicked it, all right. Guess where he's working now? Moderna. In fact, if you want a metaphor, it's like he played in goal for one football team, let in a load of goals, and then went to work at the football team that scored all those goals against him. There's a sports metaphor I'd like to see him unpack. The announcement of Van Tam's appointment to Moderna raised some eyebrows. Raised some eyebrows? Wait a minute, a person that was working for the government and setting up all of these Moderna contracts is going to work for Moderna. Oh, this looks like corruption. Okay, eyebrows, do your worst. Rose Whiffen, the senior research officer at Transparency International UK, said, when companies employ former officials, regardless of whether they worked in that industry before their government role or not, it raises the risk of privileged information being misused for commercial benefit. It's not the risk of that, it's the point of that. That is why that's happening. Do you seriously think there is no connection at all between dear old Jonathan metaphor-using, eyebrow-raising Van Tam having a position where he is able to facilitate massive profits for Moderna, taking a job at Moderna? And while you're answering that question, do you think there's no connection between Rishi Sunak, the British Prime Minister, being an investor in a hedge fund that invested in Moderna and refusing to talk about whether he profited? There's a lot of coincidences going on, and when the number of coincidences becomes unignorable, I think what you have is conspiracy. Currently, there are only minimal safeguards against abuse of the revolving door between the public and private sector. Yes, that's because it's institutionalised corruption. The government should prohibit ex-senior civil servants and ministers from taking up positions where they have substantial responsibility for policy relevant to the hiring company. You know why they've not done that? Because then people wouldn't take those roles. They'd go, well, hold on, why should we work in government if we can't use that experience? That's the whole point of it. That's the whole point of it. The knighthood, taking a sort of a comparatively low paid civic role before taking a hugely paid role at a corporation. That is literally, you know already, don't you, how the system works. If you stop that, you're changing the system. That's why you need parties, politicians, organisations that say what we're going to do is introduce policies that prevent that. And if you don't get that, you don't really get anything, because that's, in a sense, the nucleus of our problem. Van Tam has also been a consultant to the World Health Organization on influenza since 2004. The World Health Organization that provides your community guidelines here on YouTube, if that's where you're watching it. It's almost like all of these things are connected. Not only is this a disgusting, appalling story in and of itself, but it's also a perfect template for how things work more broadly. What is it when the mainstream media bring on military consultants to advocate for war that have undeclared relationships with Raytheon or Lockheed Martin? What is it when a government official 1 minute is telling you that you ought to be taking these vaccines, that it's the only solution, that we could score a goal in the 70th minute and nick it, and then the next minute is working at Moderna? That is the system. It's what you've always known. It's what you've always suspected. It's what you imagined was going to happen at the beginning of the pandemic. You realised it more quickly than we did even, and now there's proof that that's what's happening. He worked in the pharmaceutical and vaccines industries from 2000 until 2004 for SmithKline Beecham, which became part of GSK, Roche, and a joint venture between Sanofi Pasteur and MSD. Additionally, Rishi Sunak, the current Prime Minister, basically President of our country, also has some interesting ties to Moderna. Here they are. In 2020, then Chancellor, means he's in charge of the money. Rishi Sunak refused to disclose whether he would profit from a surge in the share price of COVID-19 vaccine manufacturer Moderna, one of the biggest investments held by the hedge fund he co-founded before entering Parliament. Before entering Parliament, he came up with a hedge fund, a bunch of money. They invested a lot in Moderna. Then while he was in charge of the British public's money, they invested a lot of money in Moderna. Then when asked, hey, are you going to profit from that? He refused to answer it. Presumably because his answer was going to make us so happy that he thought, what? You thought because I'm not answering this question about whether or not I'll profit from Moderna just because I co-funded a hedge fund which invested in Moderna and now we're buying a bunch of Moderna vaccines. Those vaccines were a surprise for your birthday and you've ruined it. You're just like your Pfizer. Cheers, been a while. Sunak was a founding partner of Fathim Partners, a major investor in Moderna and one of the executives